My name is Ricardo Bear, and I'm the lead designer on Prey.
My name is Rafael Colantonio. I'm the president of Arkane Studios and the creative director on Prey.
So what did we see today here at Quakecon? What were you guys showing off about Prey?
Well, what you guys saw was the, I guess, world premiere of the first gameplay trailer. We showed two things. We showed the gameplay trailer, which I think is online now, and then Raph and I walked through an extended version of the trailer just to sort of talk about and show off some of the more details of our gameplay mechanics.
It was literally extracted from a playthrough.
And where in the game's universe does this game exist? Where in the Prey universe will this take place?
So the whole game takes place aboard a space station called Talos 1. And you play the role of Morgan Yu, and you're the key subject of some experiments taking place aboard the space station, and you break out and you realize things have gone sideways on the space station. Everything's in terrible shape. Some aliens are overrunning the space station. They're hunting you, and so initially part of the mystery is like, how did I get here? Who am I? What am I doing here? What are the aliens doing? Because they have their own agenda. They're not just waiting around for you to show up and kill them.
What did the extra time away from the franchise give you guys, like creatively? Like, kind of, did it open up doors for you guys to really kind of reimagine this franchise, or do you feel like it's almost like you were building a new game when you went to do it?
Yeah, it's more like a match of circumstance. We wanted to make a game where you survive and escape a space station, and there are aliens. And since we do first-person games, the high-level premise was similar to the Prey, and we happen to have the franchise. So then it made sense to have it. But the game, the world and the gameplay is a full reimagination.
And what were your goals heading into this game with a blank slate?
Well, I think the goal, to be fair, it was to make one more Arkane game. You know, that's a very reality, which is those first-person simulation / adventure / action games. You know, the first-person immersive sims, basically, where there's a lot of player agency, and we give you all those tools, and you can experiment and hopefully influence the outcome of the world based on what you've done in the game, the choices that you've made. We love this kind of games, and so that's what we set for.
And one thing I noticed that's really going to make this game unique are the weapons and just the powers that you're giving the player. One was the mimic feature. I think you demoed that. Can you talk about in a world with so many first-person games, how you guys are really going to differentiate with gameplay mechanics or the environment?
Yeah, so you were talking about the powers, and one of the ways that we approach things like powers and weapons at Arkane is we try to make them as player-driven and as expressive as possible. So we don't just come up with a power or a tool for the most part and say this is only useful in combat. We try to make it to be something that's very general purpose, and what that does is it lets the player then be creative with it. So like you saw the glue gun, which fires this sort of like foamy-like substance that hardens, and of course you can use it to trap enemies, which is useful for escaping. But the alien powers that you learn from the aliens. So if you like trap them with the glue, then you can scan them and try to steal their powers. But it's also good for like creating ways that you can like climb up a wall. You can like spray glue on the wall and it'll form a ledge that you can use to like navigate around the station. And so it's the same thing with our powers. Like like the mimic power itself is like super useful for stealth. As you saw in the video, it's also useful for slipping into small spaces if you mimic something that's small.
Right, because there's a moment where you turn in this object, and then you combine that moment with the physical blast, where you propel yourself as you are an object, to some space that you would never go without this combination of powers.
Yeah, I swear that was the moment where I was like, I've never seen a game like this, where you not only did you have kind of a tech tree sort of thing going, but it's stackable in a sense where, okay, I can mimic this, but then I'm also going to use my explosion power. I can't imagine, like, this is just one example. There's probably going to be a lot of puzzle kind of things that you're going to help. Our powers will be used to get us out of those situations, right?
Yeah, and the best part is that the game did that for free for us. Honestly, you know, we designed the mimic power, we designed the phys impact power, and it's only because some designer tried it, like during a playthrough, he tried to combine those two, and it worked magically thanks to the magic of simulation. But see what I mean? That's why we love simulated games.
Yeah, because I think you guys had even mentioned that the game's not going to be too dependent on weapons as much as a traditional shooter, and that there's going to be powers, there's going to be other things. Is that one way that you guys are going to use to push the franchise forward, or just push FPS forward in general?
Yeah, well, you know, like Raph was saying, that we specialize in making this kind of game at Arkane because, frankly, it's the kind of game that we personally love so much, and we feel like these kinds of games are rare and they're special, and so we love games where the player like asks the game, like, what if I tried this? Is this gonna work? And then the game like answers with a yes, it will work. Like, good job, player. Good job being creative, trying to solve this problem.
Yeah, and in the case of Prey, we went with a deliberate, limited amount of weapons and ammos because we want to encourage players to do other things. You know, use the powers, or use more stealth, or use like some weapon for another in a different way. Because players will always go for the more direct approach. So if we give you a gun and bullets, you're gonna stick to your gun and bullets. But guns in our case is only, you know, it's a limited. You're on board of a space station, so how many guns can there be? You know.
Yeah, and one thing, you know, I kind of asking about the story in general. I think one thing you guys are doing is, I think great games do, or that you give the players a tool to create their own stories out of things they did. How much are you going to lend, or how much are you going to lean on that aspect of gameplay versus how much of the narrative will be driven by a story exactly?
So, Prey definitely has a central story that you can follow and that you can push through and pursue. Like, there's that mystery at the beginning that you're trying to solve. On the other hand, it is an open structure. It's an open-ended structure. So, you know, right from the get-go, the player can explore various parts of the space station and eventually the entire space station, both inside and out. And so you definitely have the freedom to like say, you know what, I'm gonna pause the main story because I just ran into this like really interesting like survivor who's hiding in the crew facilities, and I'm gonna see what he wants. And you can get distracted with that, and what you choose to do with that person will definitely have an impact at the end of the game.
Yeah, and there's also moments which are purely, it's somewhere between gameplay and just the player wanted to go on his own thing. For example, he's on his, you know, he's en route to some sort of to this quest that the main mission, and he's really feeling low on ammo. So at some point you might just think, you know what, I've got all these other things in my inventory. I'm gonna go back to the recycler that there was like 2 levels below, and then create some shotgun shell, and that alone suddenly is a new mission, because then you have to come back. You have to think of like what's the shortest way to go back to the fabricator and the recycler that you saw, and those are like player-oriented objectives that are really interesting actually, because they change the entire course of the game.
So you described the environment as an open world. It's a space station, but you said you can go anywhere in this, and it feels like when you do that in a game, it lends to, like you said, just tangential sort of things that occur that aren't necessarily part of the story but are just fun to do. One thing, I don't know if you guys have played Doom, they do these rune trials. Have you guys looked at the success of Doom, since that's a single player from your same company, you know, or from Bethesda, and have you guys thought of, you know, how to do something similar to that in Prey, or are you guys just looking at like, we're making this is the environment, there are going to be some cool things to do? How did you look at the success of Doom single player? Because I think it's really caught people by surprise, and I think even the announcement at E3 of Prey caught people by surprise. So,
well, we're definitely fans of Doom. The new Doom is fantastic. It's I think it's everything everyone wanted a Doom successor to be, and we've all played it a bunch. But it's a very, very different game than Prey. I mean, they can rightly call themselves a first-person shooter, whereas we're a first-person action game. We have simulation elements, we have RPG elements. So our game relies more on being a sort of a blend or a stew of gameplay, where it's not any one thing that's like, this game has this one feature. It's more like, this game has like a dozen interesting features that when they mix together and then you throw in the player's own creativity, it creates a very unique experience.
Are you guys thinking from an aspect of replayability that you're going to want people to go back, like, oh, I missed that one part of the station, and go back to do it again?
Yes, absolutely. We have I can't remember how many permutations of type of endings that there is at the end, based on what you've done, who you've saved, who you haven't, some of the decisions you've made. So and it's mutually exclusive. If you do this, then you can do that. So we totally expect people to replay the game the same way Dishonored was replayed. You know, it's the same in the sense that not only for the story and all the branching, but in fact there are probably more endings this time in reality. But also just the fact that there are not enough neuromods in the game to upgrade all the powers. So you have to make some choices about some of your playstyle. And so if you really want to experience the entire game, you will have to play more than once.
That sounds good to me. So how long did it take you guys to iterate on the power tree? Because it seems like it doesn't seem too complex, but at the same time, like you said, there's going to be so many different permutations of the game. How long did that take to figure out?
We're not done with the game yet, so it's still going. I mean, we've been working on the game for a while now. And you know, we've got the majority of our powers are locked in, but we're still playing around with some of them here and there.
So you'll let me know in 2017.
Exactly. That's when we'll let you know. That's when we'll be sure.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for your time.
All right, man. Good talking to you.